and our topic this morning will be based in the election programs or the election process. So our guest in the studio will be Philip Ferreira, who is a lecturer in the School of Law, and of course Alice Ariori, the project coordinator for building election integrity through partnership projects. So those are our guests this morning, and I'd like to make them welcome as we begin our program on NBC Radio mid-morning radio this hour. Alice, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
And Philip, good morning to you.
Good morning as well.
All right. Okay, we will start our talk this morning. I understand this will be our third or fourth appearance on this talk as we slowly head into the 2022 national elections. So 2022 marks a significant year for the country as we head into the national general elections. Now, many challenges will arise as with past elections. There were reports of bribery and fraud involving candidates, citizens, and electoral officials. Now, how do we progress in this election 2022? Learning from past experiences, this morning on our Building Elections Integrity Through Partnership project, we will talk around bribery in elections. So this is our program number 3, and join us for this conversation. Like I introduced earlier on, Philip Ferreira, lecturer in the School of Law, and Alice, project coordinator, project for building election integrity through partnership project. All right, and as we head into our discussions this morning, firstly, let's look at bribery. What is bribery? Maybe I'll just get views from both of you, but I'll start with you, Alice.
Okay. Firstly, I'd like to thank NBC for having TIPNG Building Elections Integrity Through Partnership Project come on air to talk about bribery in elections. So from my perspective, just a simple way of defining what bribery is. Bribery is simply the selling of vote, and it's a criminal offense. And maybe I'll let Mr. Ferreira probably give more words on that as well.
Yes, the definition of bribery, let's get back to it. Bribery is simply an offense prescribed under the Criminal Code Act. The definition is very clear. Simply, the meaning of bribery is a conduct or act where person A is induced, accepts certain favors in return to perform certain act. That is what bribery is all about. It's an unlawful act.
So as the national general elections are fast approaching, why is it important that we inform and educate our citizens about the issues and challenges around bribery in election times? So maybe Philip?
Your questions again?
I'm saying the national election is just around the corner, and so why is it important that we inform and educate our citizens about the issues and challenges around bribery in elections?
It is a right that people must be aware of what is wrong, because we're talking about the integrity of a due and fair process. Mm-hmm. And that's what it's all about. It's all about being right, not being wrong.
All right, Alice?
So as we all know, the 2022 national general election is coming up, and we're here today to really encourage the listeners out there. If you're listening, we're here to inform you that bribery is it's a criminal offense, and the national elections are coming up, and it is your responsibility as a voter to ensure that you do not participate or get involved in bribery.
All right. Now we will look at some of those important questions that you have highlighted for us for our discussions this morning. So we will look at these ones, and this will be basically about what is my vote worth, and what is vote selling and vote buying. So we will focus on discussions around this this morning. But firstly, how is my individual vote important? Maybe Alice will explain this on that.
Yes, so before I answer that question, I'll start by just introducing what the project has been doing. So the Building Elections Integrity Through Partnership. So we've been around the provinces, 8 provinces so far, carrying out civic awareness and informing voters on their rights and responsibility. And I guess that's where this question comes in. How is an individual's vote important? Now, individual vote is very important because our votes decide whether or not our communities will be receiving developments. Our votes are worth hospitals and clinics that are going to be built in the next 5 years in our communities and electorates, and they're worth the roads that will be built as well. So looking at a larger scale, our vote is worth the quality services that will be coming into our communities, and they're not worth 5 kina or 20 kina or any amount of price that's put on a vote. And that's how important an individual's vote is.
It indeed is, because that's where we make a choice and then elect our leaders to represent us on the floor of Parliament, and here come all year round, every time when we put our members on the floor of Parliament to represent us. Yes, it's the choice that we make from the beginning to put people there, and whatever they do is for the benefit of our people and all of us. All right, so it's important that way. So how does my vote or our vote influence public spending in many electorates, like after the elections and all of that, and how the politicians behave and all of this? So how does this influence public spending in the electorates?
All right, so our voting decides the kind of leaders that will be leading the community. So when we vote or we appoint someone, they will be the ones that will be leading the community in the next 5 years, and they get elected by the people, and which is us. We vote for them, and they represent our views, and the people when they make decisions about certain public spending. So if we choose a leader that has no management skills, or a leader that does not have integrity or accountability, they are prone to misuse public funds. So that's how they influence public spending in our electorate. So it's very important to know that when these people or candidates get elected into office, they represent us and our views, our interests. So it's important to choose a leader with good leadership qualities, a leader that does not have integrity and accountability. They're prone to misuse public funds. So that's why our voting is important.
All right.
So our vote is important.
Yes, spending public funds that's been used by the members of Parliament. So maybe I'll bring Philip into this conversation, and when we talk about public spending, public funds being used by members of Parliament for development purposes. In this regard, as Alice alluded to, what would you add on to this?
Public fundings are specifically meant for specific purposes, and as my colleague said, public funds, abuse of public funds by members of Parliament through such events, through dubious means, amounts up to nothing but a criminal conduct, and it creates disharmony in the society, in the community where we live. It's a serious matter.
So when looking at it in that perspective, now we look at the breaking the law. So when we sell our vote at the beginning of the election process, when people go out to campaign and do all these sort of bribery acts, all of these. So the one issue we'd like to touch base on is it breaking the law to sell my vote? So what would be your response to that?
Well, my response to that is that laws are made for us to follow. Laws are made for citizens to follow, non-citizens to follow, Papua New Guineans to follow. If there is a law in place, there is order in society. If there is no law, there is no order in society. So, specifically looking at this upcoming big event, the national elections, the mere act of sending a vote is simply the same as buying votes. The main character, the main person in this is the candidate. His act amounts up to nothing but bribery, nothing else.
All right, so that means selling my vote means bribery.
It amounts up to that.
So, while we advocate to the elections are coming, 2020 elections are coming, and while we advocate on this, what's the challenge now? Is there a particular law that can prevent people from this acts of bribery?
We have laws in place. Those laws have to be followed or enforced. We have enforcement agencies out there. It's the part to play. It comes down to it boils down to the integrity of individuals as well, attitude of people.
Bribery, yes, it boils down. That's true. It boils down to the attitude of people and how people want to win favors. So this is what common in every society here in Papua New Guinea. So, Alice, what Philip has mentioned, you would like to add some points on this?
Yeah, so I share the same sentiments as Philip, and bribery is a criminal offense, and that's something that we'll be saying over and over throughout this session. It's a criminal offense. If you're selling your vote, and if there's someone who's running for elections buying your vote, it's a form of bribery, and it's a criminal offense.
All right. So, as an individual, it is my right to choose who to vote for. And so, what is my vote? What is my vote worth? And of course, in some places in the country, that liberty is not exercised. So, why is this?
Sorry, your question again?
I'm saying, as an individual, it is my right to choose who to vote for.
Yes.
And then, but in some places in the country, that liberty is not exercised. So why is this?
So from my understanding, voting, the ability to vote is a democratic right. It's enforced in the Constitution. It's enforced in the PNG Constitution, and that means that everyone here in Papua New Guinea, they have the right to vote. So I have no knowledge of other countries who don't have that right to vote. But speaking from Papua New Guinea's perspective, I know that voting is everyone's right. If you have turned the age, if you're 18 of age and above, you're eligible to vote. It's your democratic right to participate in the national elections.
All right. And Philip?
You see, the concept of voting is supposed to be a concept that one must exercise his freedom to choose. Now, in a situation where a person has been there are certain things that have exchanged, and his liberty to choose is influenced by that factor. And as you can see, and you're correct in asking that question, in some parts of this country, because they've done that, they are bound to vote that person. They can't go outside of it. It has happened, and it's happening, and it will forever happen.
All right. Okay, so one question would be, why is what is vote selling and vote buying? This like we'll touch base on this already, but maybe people go out to sell their votes, and people continue to buy votes, and people continue to accept the bribes. Why is this happening during election periods?
Well, you see out here, especially in the metropolitan area, and probably in some rural areas too, you know, the need for money, economic factors. If they know that you're a person who's contesting or about to contest, or you are a person of standing, definitely it boils down to our attitude. People will have the inner desire to get something. Now that is the mentality flowing around in the country now. You do me a favor, I give you next.
So what is the TIPNG's position in trying to advocate on this, to try to discourage?
Okay, so from TIPNG's perspective, so as I've mentioned earlier in the start of the session, I mentioned that we've been going around the province and carrying out civic awareness. And one of the main voter messages for the awareness is really to practice your rights and responsibility as a voter. And one of that responsibility that comes with being a voter is not engaging in bribery. So if you want to become a responsible voter, do not engage in bribery. So all the listeners out there, if you start learning up, you heard this message. Elections have come up now. 2022 national elections will come up. You can selling vote do you, because vote selling straight passing and want a criminal offense.
Thank you for that, and we're now coming to look at these issues, and that's how are you ruining your children's future when you sell your vote? So this is one important issue we will look at this morning, because in a family there are a good number of voters in there, and when the bribery comes into this family, that means they are all for one person. But this is something that we need to talk more on this issue. So so what should I do if my whole family decide to sell our vote? Alice?
So yeah, that's actually a very important question, especially with the national elections coming up, and with past experiences that I know some of us have witnessed in past elections, with block voting, whole clan tribe putting voting for one person, having everybody in the clan vote for one person, or having everyone in a particular family vote for one person. That question is very important to really address that issue. So it is very important for us. So you as an individual, so if you're listening out there, please good. It is very important for you to, as an individual, to ensure that you make the right decision to not sell your vote. We as voters have the responsibility to make sure that we do not sell our votes, and try as much as possible to encourage others to not sell the vote as well. So if you know that you're 18 years of age, you are, like I said before, you have the right to vote and participate in the national elections. Someone else cannot do it for you. You have to really take a stand and think of the leaders that you want to vote for. Now is the time to start thinking of the kind of leadership qualities and skills. So one kind leader you look in the community blue and baran the election, you think I was a good leader. You as an individual must take that responsibility to practice that democratic right and participate in the national elections.
All right, yeah. And Philip, your take to this?
Your question again, sir?
That's what should I do if my whole family decide to sell our vote?
Answer is simple. Stop. You can't go one step further. When you go one step further, the whole family is involved. That practice continues on.
What happens if I'm offered goods instead of money for my vote?
Still amounts up to the same thing, bribery. Whether it's goods or money, it's the same value.
All right. All right. So how will service delivery be impacted for people who sell their vote? Alice?
So, well, as mentioned earlier, our vote is worth the developments that will come into the communities, the roads that will be built, good and efficient hospital services. So let's say if I happen to sell my vote now, and after elections and my son gets sick and I try to get him to the nearest clinic in my electorate, but the clinic has been closed for 3 months due to maybe underpaid staffs or shortage of medicine, it all comes back to the decision that I made to sell my vote. I made that choice to choose a leader out of, a criminal act by selling my vote, and that is the result of, the decision that I've made, voting for a leader that maybe does not have that leadership quality, but I just voted because I wanted something in return. I wanted money, or I benefited in some sort of way. So the person that I voted for, he is the person that's responsible to ensure that the clinic or hospital is open for access by the people or who need medical attention. And as a result of me selling my vote to that candidate, my son will be affected by the decision that I made to sell my vote. So that's just a classical example of what usually happens when you sell your vote, a long-term effect. So I sell my vote now, and then in the next 5 years, these things are going to happen. We'll have issues with our hospital, we'll have issues with our clinics, and the people that are going to get affected are our children, the people living in the community. So that's why we're advocating and making awareness, bringing awareness to the people to ensure that you vote independently and to ensure that you vote for the right leaders, so that in the next 5 years, at least, we benefit from it, and the people that we're voting on their not on their behalf, but our children, benefit from it as well. So you can get our listeners, you can him, make sure so you make him right decision, lo make him good leader, lo this election and back up to this year.
Will you pay any addition to this?
I think my colleague has answered the question.
All right. Okay, now let's look at lessons learned. All right, lessons learned from past experiences. But before we do that, let's just pause for a while, and then when we come back, we'll continue with our talk this morning. With TAPNG this morning, basically talking about bribery in election times, and we'll bring the time now to 18, rather 17, going to 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, that's when we will wrap up things for you. But for those of you who are listening out there and would like to be part of this conversation we're having this morning, yes, the numbers you can call us on 325-3339, 325-3339, or 323-9840. So those are the numbers you can keep in touch with us should you wish to raise some questions to our panelists. It's Alice Ariori and of course Philip Ferreca. All right, looking at lessons learned from past elections. First one would be, have individuals been arrested? Because this is the end result. Because we're talking about selling votes, buying votes. Now the end result, the result of those bribery acts after being elected or in that process. So have individuals been arrested and charged for selling their votes in past elections? Maybe we can look back to the past elections and then get back to some of those experiences we have. So, Alice,
I'll answer that question as it is for me.
yes.
Have individuals been arrested? As far as I am concerned, I cannot recall of any individuals being arrested for selling their votes in the past. I cannot clearly think of that individuals selling the votes.
Do we come up with any reasons why people don't follow this sort of things?
Well, it's
I mean, the law should catch up with them, but why?
it's basically to do with A and B.
Mm.
They have an understanding, and unless that understanding is breached, you get the point that I'm illustrating here is that this is something that sort of happens in an enclosed door.
Carry on. Yep.
It happens in an enclosed door. All I know is about election discrepancies, but for individuals precisely, I cannot recall of any precedent cases or any past cases or current cases where individuals have been arrested and charged for selling their votes.
So as we advocate now, TIPIG's role is very important in this area. So what's the message?
The message here is that to target individuals, the wider community, to refrain from either selling or buying. That is the bottom line here.
All right.
Sorry, just to add on to what Philip has mentioned. So, as Philip has mentioned, he does not recall of any cases that he's dealt with involving voters that have been arrested and charged. But I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of cases of vote selling and that people are engaging in that practice. But I guess it comes back to us as an individual. If you see that someone is engaging in selling their vote, you must ensure that you report it to the authorities, because that practice is wrong, and we would not like to have that practice being continued to the next election. Because what happens is, when we start encouraging vote buying and selling, it ends up in voting for the wrong leaders, and then wrong leaders get into the office, and then we don't see developments and in the next 5 years. So it really comes back to us as an individual. You have to really take that responsibility to keep your eyes open. If you notice the act of bribery during elections, we're here today to let you know that at TIPNG we offer a toll-free service. So you can call these numbers 180 000 to report any criminal activities that you witness during elections. So yeah, it's important that you speak up and identify what's happening around you, and if it's illegal, you report it to the authorities.
Important one there, because people here, when they come around, some things, this is from a personal opinion, but when you sitting around and independent candidates are walking by, people's eyes are always open, huh? And so that also, facial impressions also tells a different story as well when leaders walking by or within their presence in most cases. So that's how they also encourage bribery themselves as well. So with that, any views you might want to share? People should not.
Yeah, sorry, just to add on, earlier I mentioned the toll-free number that you can call to report corruption. The number is 180-6000, so that's 180-6000, or you can call our landline. It's 323-4917. So if you've witnessed, the elections are coming up, and if you're there at the polling site and you witness any form of corruption, we have a toll-free available that you can call. It's free of charge, 180-6000, or you can call 323-4917.
Philip, you indicated that there's no record showing that people who are bribing people during campaigns and all of this to end favors, there are no record showing someone has been arrested. And so why is it so difficult to arrest those people?
Well, it is something that happens between two parties. Two parties, and there is an understanding. And also, most importantly, the fear of repercussion.
That's right.
It's fear. How can you report someone that has given you something in favor?
So in that regard, is there are there any laws that need to be changed to reduce bribery during elections in Papua New Guinea?
We have enough laws. We have sufficient laws. Our problem, firstly, is to do with one, our attitude and our mentality. Two, people have suffered far too long in terms of fairness across the board, in terms of help from the legislators. So this is what they're looking at. The wind that is going around, the message going around is, you get, but don't vote for that person.
That's right. But as election is fast approaching, we have about a couple of weeks before the writs are issued. And so, because there are no records, people who are engaged in the acts of bribery, and none has been arrested and all of that. So, because the law says it is illegal, what's the challenge now to the intending candidates and the members of parliament as they go out to campaign again for the 2022 elections?
The challenge is that it falls on themselves as well. Both candidates and intending candidates, they have a duty to report any discrepancies. That's how you can fight this corruption.
Exactly. And what can individual voters do to stop the practice of vote buying and selling in PNG? I think at least you explained a bit on this already, but maybe you can expand more on it.
Yeah, so as I've mentioned, it's very important to understand that we all as voters, we have rights and also we have responsibilities as well. And our responsibility is really not to engage in corrupt activities during elections, and that's vote buying and vote selling. So it's very important that your listeners out there who are listening to this radio session to understand that you have a responsibility as a voter, and if you're going to be participating in the elections, ensure that you don't engage yourself in bribery. Now, I'll just share a little bit of, since we're on the topic of lessons learned from past elections. So during one particular election that happened last year, there were cases of vote selling and vote buying as people who went up to vote at the polling booths. They took selfies of themselves voting for that particular candidate, and they WhatsApp, their photos to the candidate as proof that they voted for them so that they get paid. So this is something that's actually happening on the field during elections, and that's why we're here to advocate that practice isn't right. And it's something that's happened before, and we don't want that to happen in the elections that are coming up this year. So if you Harim, if you're listening out there, please ensure that you do the right thing, because your vote is very important. When you're voting, and the people that are going to be affected, the people that are going to be, your vote is really going to ensure that the good leaders get elected into office, and that they carry out the services that needs to be carried out. So I just want to remind the listeners out there that Bribery is a criminal offense, and it takes two parties to commit bribery. The one who is selling and the other party who is buying. You both will be charged for bribery if caught in the act of bribery. So please ensure as an individual to take responsibility, to not engage yourself in the act of bribery, and to do the right thing, and vote for leaders who have leadership qualities. And I've been talking about that, during this session, about really talking about the good leadership qualities of a leader, and those leaders will make good decisions for our communities and bring about good services into our communities as well.
Thank you, Alice, for that. And we also fast running out of time this morning. But as we slowly wrap up this morning, maybe the last words from Philip, because we're looking at what is my vote worth and what is vote selling and vote buying. So in that regard, what's the final word that you would like to give to our people as we're going to 2022 elections?
Yes, my final word to the citizens of this country to exercise their voting properly and carefully, and to vote based on qualities of a person's background, not to vote according to clan connections or want-to-kissing, but look at the quality of a person. And that's serious. In that regard, they must not abandon the idea of looking at voting women folk for this coming elections as well. Let's try to see if there is a difference this time created with women on the floor of parliament.
And Alice, your last words on the bribery in election times, as TAP and you continue to advocate on these bribery issues during elections.
Yeah, so it is very important for our listeners out there who have tuned in today to really start thinking about the kind of leaders that you want to lead your communities. And I am referring to leaders with good leadership skills, or leadership qualities rather. Leadership qualities like integrity, honesty, transparency, servitude. Will this leader be able to serve the people when he gets into the parliament or when he gets into office? So these leadership qualities are very important. If you know that you'll be participating in the national election, start to think about the leaders who are already in place and who are going to be running for the election. Start thinking, have they done any developments in the community? Have they shown these values: integrity, honesty, transparency, servitude? These are the values that you as an individual should start thinking of and prepare yourself for the election so that you are able to vote for the right leader. Also, here at Transparency International, as mentioned, we offer a free service hotline service where anyone, if you witness corruption during election, you can report that matter. The election are coming up, so it's important that you keep your eyes open, and if you witness any act of corruption, please feel free to call our hotline number, which is 180-6000. So I'll repeat it again: 180-6000. So you can call that number and report any corruption-related matters that you've witnessed.
Thank you, Alice, for summarizing our talk for this morning. This is our segment 3 with TAPNG as we continue to advocate on the election processes here in Papua New Guinea as we head into the 2022 national general elections. So our topic this morning was on bribery in the election programs, and our guest this morning, Philip Ferreca, lecturer in School of Law, and of course Alice Ariori, project for building election integrity through partnership project with TIPNG. So until our next program next week, I guess, I'd like to thank you both for coming into the studio for a chat this morning on the bribery in elections.
Thank you.
Thank you.